and also the little support that we have. I mean, in ICU, we also have sort of like a pathway or a foundational unit, but that's restricted to only 6-7 hours during the semester. And with this AI coming in, whether we like it or not, students are already using AI. So the real question now for us, or that we thought as a teaching team, is what kind of thinking are we training them into? And that's when we actually thought about Mathpal. So that's the context. So the problem we were trying to address is that students were for a couple of semesters now, we have noticed that students were actually using generative AI for all the take-home assessments. So at least for the first year calculus, it's actually giving good answers. Now that's a problem because it's giving them finished solutions, and students really, if you think about the solutions, it's going from point A to B, and students really do not know how to get to the intermediary step. So if I give them a similar problem next time, they do not know how to approach the same problem. So students copy solutions without understanding, and if you give them a similar problem, they do not know how to begin. So I think all of you agree here that students seeing a solution, or they in fact misinterpret that seeing a solution or reading a solution is sort of like understanding the solution, which is completely different. So the sort of question or the problem that we wanted to address was that if AI was not allowed to answer the question, what if it could only do what good tutors would do? So that was what we wanted. And luckily for us, Daniel Liu from UCIT actually came up with his cognitive AI. He came and presented at ACU, and that's when I reached out and made an AI agent using his cognitive AI agent thing. So that's where Mathpal comes in. So it acts as a Socratic AI tutor. So it's embedded directly in Canvas, so students can go in directly and chat with the AI. But the key design decision is that we don't give any worked solutions, right? And that's the design. Yeah, but with every AI model that you generate, there is always a flaw. So I will just come back to all the drawbacks later. So that is the main design decision that we made, that we are not going to give solutions, but we're going to ask them to guide students to reflect. So that's what Mathpal does. So Mathpal, if you go into Mathpal, what it does is that it asks you, students can input a question at a time, and it guides students to reflect. It explains terminology when asked. It uses analogies. It is useful to create new practice questions. It will help students decide which method to try, but not how to execute it. So you can think of it like less like Wolfram Alpha, but more like that tutor who keeps asking, why would you do that? Why would you do that? And stuff like that. Yeah. So yes, students found that frustrating, and that was deliberate. So, you have ChatGPT giving them solutions, giving them work solutions on the other hand, but this is not giving them answers, but asking them to think. So it was difficult on one hand to get students to try them out, because you have other sources where they were actually getting answers. But once students were actually trying out, they really understood the benefit of it. So if you think about the pedagogical design, so Mathpal was actually designed to slow students down a bit, externalize their thinking and make sort of, how do I put it? So make their reasoning visible in some sense. So that was what we had in mind. So for example, instead of saying differentiate this, it just asks you what kind of functions are you looking at, what rules do you already know that can apply here. So that shift from doing to deciding is sort of what made me invested in this project. Yeah. So the rationale is, like I said, can AI not just produce answers, but can it also use to support thinking? So that was the idea. And the other thing is whether it can act as a tutor, as a 24-hour tutor. And one of the things that we always get, or one of the always when I open my inbox, I always get student emails spread across from 10 p.m. across to, I don't know, 2 a.m., 3 a.m. And that's where probably most students study. And that's where they're actually required the support from. And my one of the rationale was that this could be introduced as a 24-hour tutor, as support that's available when teaching staff aren't actually. So it's not sort of like a replacement, but sort of like a supplement. So so Mathpal withholds solutions, but instead guides students to unpack terminology designed on an approach. So sort of like promoting independence rather than dependence. So um, so even though when we had just like 1 week before the start of semester to actually create this, I sort of went with the hinge to generate this because I had this in mind that Mathpal or this agent or this sort of like tutor would help them or would help them uh, as a tutor, as a 24-hour tutor, as I said, but it was designed to be present there. Students have a feeling that someone is there to help them out. It's not designed to be powerful, it's designed to be present for students to sort of just ask questions and get clarifications when they are actually stuck. And that's sort of like the rationale. So when I introduced Mathpal, I gave them that these are the list of things that you can do with Mathpal. I gave them a Canvas page where they can where I've given them video to show how they can use it. But I honestly wasn't sure how many of them would actually use it that way. I assumed, like many of us might, that most students would just push it to the limits and try to extract answers. But what surprised me was a significant number of students. So I wouldn't say whole, but maybe 20% of them were actively using Mathpal exactly in those intended ways. So that wasn't enforced, that wasn't assessed. They chose to engage with it that way. So um, and I think that tells us something important about how students behave when the tool itself nudges them towards thinking rather than the answers. So these are some example use cases. I just want to put it out here. I'll just sort of yeah, enlarge it a bit. So if you think this is the first question they had, I think here, this is a question the student asked. It asks us to integrate this. So now the student is looking for the solution, but what it tells you, the response is great effort. But can you recall what the integration techniques might be useful? What do you think that the first step could be and stuff like that? It's sort of asking you to look back into that. So I think the student uses u equal to 2 plus x as a method of substitution, I guess. So it says there, nice choice for your substitution. It goes on. So that's sort of like the conversation is start building up. And there is this one as well. So this is sort of like a drawback. I'm putting it up here again. So here is a question where the student asks integration by parts for this question here. Now, it says great effort in reaching out. It's a useful technique. Can you recall the formula for integration by parts? What do you think are the parts you should choose for the function and so on? But then students, instead of responding to this, he just changed the question and has integration by parts for another question here. But now, if you look at the response, so this is sort of like a completely unrelated response. You are on the right track with integration by parts. It really doesn't make sense, but I'm putting out here saying that the agent itself is not perfect at the moment, but it says again, but if you proceed, do you remember the integration by parts formula? It again pushes you in the right direction. So it says, please solve it for me. That's what the student asked it. And it says, I appreciate your enthusiasm, but I can't provide direct solutions. So let's think about how to approach it. And it's sort of, like I said, not just the students to thinking in the right direction. I think I have a couple of examples. So here is an example where you can use where a student has used to generate questions. So generate a question on integration by substitution, and they have used it to practice. So there are a couple of many examples that follow from there. So it can be also used to sort of used to explain concepts. So here is a student asking Mathpal, what are functions? So it just gives you the definition, and then sort of like to deepen the understanding, it asks you, can you tell me what makes a function different from any relationship between numbers? And it just creates a conversation where, it sort of deepens the understanding of what they're trying to do. Okay, so um, I think here is another one as well. So again, hyperbolic functions, how did they get their name? So all these things where, I mean, it eventually uses ChatGPT 5, I think. So the model is exactly the same. So you get the response exactly from there. But yeah. So, I mean, like I said, I started this last semester with no intention to actually do a good research study about it, but just had 670 conversations recorded on it. And then, I mean, I just put it up as an optional item on the cell survey to see how they actually responded. And in fact, there are 21 students who responded from Strathfield or Sydney campus, and I think 15 of them were okay, not bad. And here, 5 of them were okay with how they use Mathpal. And I think this comment was really useful because it says Mathpal was really useful. I should have used it more. The thing is that, most people tend to find that it was really useful only towards the end of the semester, because that's when, I mean, after repeated use, they were actually getting that, things were actually making sense to them. So, I mean, there was another student. I mean, most of my feedbacks that I've got were actually informal during the tutorial. So another student, I'll paraphrase it, it says it's really annoying, but I realize I actually understand more. So, I mean, that's pedagogical gold, or maybe silver, I should say, given how the prices are going. But, um, I think that's really something that really stuck with me. Yeah. So, like I said, from early observations, and I could be biased here. Like I said, there is no formal study to support this, but for the students I actually tutored, I mean, I've actually observed that, students were actually asking me better questions, and maybe I should put it that way. So instead of saying, how do I do this? They started putting questions like, is this a chain rule situation, or is it a product rule? Should I be thinking algebraically or graphically? So that's the mathematical thinking sort of like improved. So um, I think that's something that was really good. Okay, so challenges, like I said, it is not perfect at all. So students impatient with the process, like I said, if you want to get the answers, if you just want the answers out, you can maybe probably ChatGPT can give you the solutions, but this was not meant for that. So uh, even though sometime in one of the assessment, I actually force students to use it. So I've actually asked students to generate a question using that. And then ask them to solve it as well using Mathpal. So I actually forced them to use it. So actually, students were impatient with the process because they were actually having to go through uh, the whole way of actually answering or actually breaking down or scaffolding the whole problem. So the other thing is prompt engineering. So even though, like I said, we model this with the intention of not giving solutions, I think I have on the slide here. Yeah, yeah. So this is a question where the student has just keyed in the assignment question, and actually Mathpal gave the solution despite giving explicit instruction not to. So when I actually saw this, so the prompt actually said do not give solutions, all right? Do not give solutions, but it actually did. So what we had to do was I think we actually had to add a phrase called non-negotiable. I think we said non-negotiable and we put something, do not give solutions, and that's when it starts giving not giving solutions. So prompt engineering is really a skill, and I think yeah, we should get better at it. So this Mathpal at the moment is just in its initial version, so it has a lot of improvements. And there's this occasional AI hallucination. Um, and of course, like I said, some students really wanted the answer. So I will show you an example of where it actually hallucinates. But the interesting thing is that these frustrations often triggered conversations, and in fact, good learning conversations between the tutors and the peers, which is also a good thing. So here is an example. So I'll just enlarge it out. So here is a quadratic. It says solve x squared plus 3x plus 2 equal to 0. Now, if my mathematics is correct, you should get 2 and 1 as the solution. But here is the students typing in -2 and -1, and it says, great job identifying those numbers. So the numbers -2 and -1 indeed multiply to give you 2 and add up to give you 3. So there you go. You have an incorrect answer there. So I mean, once I saw this, I was actually a bit tempted. I mean, because you wanted this to be a tutor, and if the tutor actually is giving you wrong answers, should you proceed with it? And I just thought maybe Mathpal was designed not to give solutions, but as sort of like as a tutor, and tutor could probably make mistakes. It's for them to think about it and actually come up with it's a solution or not. But this is a bug that we could probably need to address. And that's nothing to do with the prompt. It has to do with AI generating the solutions. And like I said, next step probably would be to track reasoning parts and to see if we can use these AI prompts in tutorials and integrate with the tutorials, say, for example, and create reflection like, why did Mathpal ask this question? And why, log interaction patterns, identify where misconceptions clutter, and use that to sort of modify or plan your tutorials. And the last I said is to sort of have a research impact on learning, which I didn't actually do this semester, but something that I have in mind. With that, I will finish with this. I just want to conclude that AI is not going away. So the choice isn't, do we allow AI? I think the choice really is, do we train students to think with it or hide behind it? So Mathpal is one small attempt to choose the first. So thank you. For any suggestions or any questions, please reach out to my email.